Today we're going to talk about Gerber Edge color registration solutions. So here's what the problem is. In many cases, when you're printing 2 colors or 3 colors or however many colors you have, when you print one color on top of another, a hole is made in the bottom color and then the top color drops into that hole. This is called butt registration printing. And in some cases, you might get a little bit of a gap between color A and color B, such as what you see here. I'll just show you a quick example here in Composer. So you might see something like that. I'm going to use a tool throughout this presentation called Spool View. Spool View is a tool that allows you to see the information that normally gets sent down to a Gerber Edge. So I'm going to use Spool View to sort of illustrate what would be sent down to a Gerber Edge in different cases. So for this normal example here, I'm going to switch over to Spool View, and I'm going to take a look. This is the data that typically would get sent to a Gerber Edge. This is the actual print data. So in this case, you see that there's a hole in the black, and then I'll go to my next color, and then the red drops into that black color with the hole in the middle. So here's color 1, here's color 2, and in some cases there might be some misregistration between color 1 and color 2. So that's kind of the dilemma that we're facing. So what do you do about it? And that's what we'll talk about in this presentation. We'll talk about overlapping or overprinting, although I recommend using overlap as opposed to overprint, and we'll discuss that as well. We'll talk about overlapping strokes, which is a nice tool. Sometimes I call that strokes for chokes. We'll also look at tools and choke spread, which is a tool in Composer that allows you to hide color-to-color registration issues. And then finally at the end we'll talk about CMYK vectors and how you can make black CMYK printing look better when you're printing on top of other CMYK vectors. So here we go. So as I said in the beginning, the problem is that sometimes when you do butt registration printing, you have a little bit of a gap between your colors. So what can you do about it? Well, one of the easiest case scenarios is where you have a dark color printing on top of a light color, such as what you see in this case. So in this case, you have a dark opaque black printing on top of a lighter red color. So what can you do in this case to fix this? You can turn on overlap for your top color. So I'm going to select my top color, which you see is that black circle, and I'm going to go over here to my fill flyout. I just held down my mouse on that bucket for a moment, and then I'm going to, just to show you, and then what I'm going to click on is this third icon from the end. And what this is basically trying to show 2 colors one on top of another with a low thermometer. That's what overlap is. It just uses normal energy settings, but it prevents the knocking out of one color from another. So I selected my topmost color, and now I'm going to click on overlap with the lower thermometer setting. Now when I go to plot and I output this to my Gerber Edge, this is what's going to happen. Let me show you with my spool view again. I'm going to go File, and I'm going to look at black on red. So in this case, you notice instead of having a hole in my red that the black drops into, I have a solid red object. And then the black, the solid black, goes right on top of it. This is not a problem for the black color because it's dense enough, it's opaque enough, where I'm not going to see any red through the black. So that's case number 1, really a nice simple case where you have a dark color on top, a lighter color on bottom. Turn on overlap for your topmost color. Okay, again, just to review, you select your top color, fly out your bucket, and click on this guy. It's gray now because I've already turned it on. Okay, good, excellent. Now I'm going back here to my PowerPoint, and let me see. My next topic is overlap strokes. This is a nice tool where you have a lighter color on top of a darker color. So this is what I'll call strokes for chokes. And as it says here, the solution is to put a small red stroke on the circle or on your topmost lighter color and turn on overlap for the stroke only. So I'll go to Composer, show you exactly what I'm talking about, and then show you in Spool View what the example is if I were to send it to my Gerber Edge. Okay, so here are my 2 objects, and I have a red circle on top of a black background. Now, just to sort of set up the scenario, if I were to select this red circle and turn on overlap like I just did for my black on the red, it's going to disappear because the red is less dense or less opaque than the black. So if I show it, and in Omega 3.0 you go to View and you Show Overprint. When you actually try to print that red on top of the black, it kind of disappears because the red is not as dense as the black. So obviously this is not going to work where you have a lighter color on top. So I'm just going to turn my overlap off for that red fill. But this time I'm going to select my red object and I'm going to go into my stroke dialog box. That's this tool here, second from the bottom in my regular toolbar. I'm going to click on stroke and I'm going to say okay, I'm going to turn the stroke solid, and for a width I'm going to start with a width of 0.02 inches. And for my color I'm going to go to colors used and I'm going to say, well, I want this intense red. Okay? Now the critical thing is that again you have to turn on overlap only for the strokes. Again, you have this lower thermometer setting, and again you see that it's trying to show one color on top of another with the lower thermometer setting. I'll click on apply and I'll click on OK. And now it might be a little hard to see, but when I zoom in on this, you see there's a little bit of the overlap showing here, and I'll show you exactly what's happening. When you add a stroke to an object, half of it goes to the inside of the object and half of the stroke goes to the outside of the object. Well, the nice thing with overlap is that it's not going to knock out that stroke at all. So I'm going to get half of my 0.02 inch overlap is going to overlap on top of my black. So that's my hiding color. I'll show you. I'll go to View and I'm going to turn off my overprints. Or I'm going to not turn off my overprints. I'm going to make it so the overprints do not display in Composer. So this area here from my vector all the way out to the outside of my stroke becomes my hiding area for the red on the black. And that's a nice, quick, easy, simple way to get some color-to-color registration improvement with very little work. You just select your objects, turn on stroke, turn on overlap. So I'm going to, again, I'll just try to zoom in and show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So this is where my red object is going to print, but my base object is going to print here, but my stroke is going to overlap onto the black from here all the way out to here. So that's the hiding area that I get by turning on overlap for a stroke. So choose a width. I usually start with 0.02 inches. Turn on overlap, this lower thermometer, and then make sure you choose the color that's the same as your base object. So we just talked about expanding the red base color using strokes and turning on overlap for the red base color. In this case, I'm just going to reverse it a little bit. I'm going to select my red base object. Select my red base object, and I'm going to actually overlap it this time with a slight black stroke with overlap turned on. So here I select my base red object, as you see. I'm going to go into my stroke dialog box again, make it solid. I'll do a width of 0.02 like I did last time. I'm going to turn on overlap, the lower thermometer, and this time I'm going to leave my stroke color to be black. So this time the red is actually going to shrink slightly with overlap turned on with the black. So in this case, because the black is more opaque, I don't have to worry about the red being on top of the black. The black will hide the red better. So what I did again, I'm just going to zoom in to show exactly what's going on. So here's my object, my vector, and I'm using this area here where the black is going to overlap on top of the red using strokes and overlap. So you can make your base object bigger using the color of the base object, or you can make the base object smaller by overlapping it with the color that's right next to it. And you'd want to do that if the color next to it is darker. So in some cases, you cannot use strokes for chokes with overlaps because of that slight size change. So what you can do instead is use another tool in Omega, which is called choke and spread, or choke spread. In Omega 2.6, choke spread works only with two colors, but you can choose a top hiding color. In Omega 3.0, you can use more than 2 colors, and the results are generally more reliable than in 2.6. So good there. So I'm just going to select my black background and my red foreground, and then you go into Tools and Choke Spread. And here's where you can choose your top color, but you see that it only allows you to use 2 colors. So I'm going to choose black as my hiding color or my top color, and I'll leave the choke spread amount at 0.02. Continue. There we go. Now you notice what it does is that it made the red actually larger, and it made the black combine with itself, and it turned on overlap automatically for the black. So if I come over here and look, you'll see that overlap is turned off because choke spread turned it on automatically. So there, that's what's happening. If I zoom in, you'll see again the red actually spread underneath the black. So there's the red, but it's underneath the black. So that's how it hides any color misregistration. In Omega 3.0, I added a couple additional colors here. What I can do is go ahead and choose all of these colors all at the same time. I'll show it to you in wireframe. And then I can go to, I'll show it to you in Filter, go to Tools and Choke Spread here in Omega 3.0, and just click on Go, and you see that my colors have automatically been spread or choked with overlaps turned on automatically. So Choke Spread is a great tool if you can't have any deviation in the visible size of your objects. Next, we'll talk about CMYK black. CMYK black is sort of a similar issue as what we were discussing before, where you have 2 spot colors, except in this case, some of your colors might be, like this red, for example here, might be created with process yellow and magenta. And the process black, in a lot of cases, might just be 100% black. And when you put that black down on top of the process yellow and magenta, it may tend to give you a color misregistration again, because it's kind of a hard and fast line between the black only and this process red, which is yellow and magenta. So what can you do to fix that? Well, what you can do is select the black portion, and instead of just having it 100% process black, you can make it 100% yellow plus 100% magenta plus 100% black. So I'll go show that in Composer as well. So we'll go down here to 100% process black. So this is the first case here, where you see that the background, which is black, is just 100% black. And then the circle is 100% magenta and 100% yellow. And again, that can make for a little bit of a misregistration between the red and the black. So what you can do instead is come down here, and instead of having this black be 100% black only, I'll go into the fill bucket here, and you see that I've turned it into 100% magenta, 100% yellow, and 100% black. So the black is actually going to go down onto a solid patch of the red instead of going down onto into a hole. Okay, good. All right, so I said before that I would also discuss the difference between overlap and overprint. In general, I use overlap more often than overprint. Overlap and overprint have the same basic functionality in that they prevent a bottom color from being knocked out by a top color. So they'll both give you, back to the first example that I showed, they'll both give you a solid background color, and then you can put another color directly on top of it. The difference is that overprint uses a higher heat setting, and the Gerber Edge can only print one heat setting at a time. So if you're printing some shapes at normal energy settings or normal heat settings, and you're printing another shape of the same color using overprint is going to print the normal energy settings first, and then rewind and print the overprint shapes second. And that's in a lot of cases, a lot of classes that I teach. People always say, why does my edge print twice? Well, it's because you're using overprint for some of your intense red, and you're using normal energy settings for other shapes of the intense red. So for that reason, I recommend that people use overlap instead, because overlap does not use that higher energy setting. It just uses normal Gerber edge foil energy settings for a given color. So if I use intense red for one object and then normal energy settings for my other objects, it's only going to print in one pass. So that's why I recommend using overlap versus overprint. And the reason why overprint was put in there along with overlap is because if you're printing large areas of foil on foil, you might get a little bit of under transfer for the top color because the foil doesn't stick quite as well to foil as it does to vinyl. But in the majority of cases, I've found that overlap works just fine, and I don't have to worry about any of those print twice issues. Okay, so finally, there's a new tool in Omega 3.0. My last tip and trick for color-to-color registration is a new tool in Omega 3.0, which is called regfixer.exe. And regfixer is really a great tool because it relies on a physical alignment of colors that can be done through the software. So with choke spread or with using overlap with strokes, you basically are hiding colors with other colors by making shapes larger and smaller. In some cases, you can't make shapes larger or smaller because the objects are very small, or because perhaps you're using Gerber color spectratone, where there's just no tolerance for, or very little tolerance for misregistered colors. What regfixer does is that it actually moves one color, an entire color plane, with respect to the other color planes in a job. So there's actually an entire video here at www.gspinc.com/mtssandbox. There's a whole video about regfixer and a whole explanation for regfixer. And also in this PowerPoint that I'll post, there's a description of how to use regfixer as well. So what you do with regfixer, just very briefly, is that you make a spool file, you do a test print of that spool file, just a small version of a job, and you find out which colors are misregistered with respect to the other colors. And then you can adjust the colors by using regfixer, generate a new spool file, and then your colors are actually physically adjusted by however pixels you enter into these little fields here. So -2 will move intense red 2 pixels to the left, and then this 3 that I have for green is going to move the green color plane 3 pixels to the right with respect to all the other colors in the job. So anyway, again, see the video on the website www.gspinc.com/mtssandbox, and you'll get more information about regfixer. So hopefully this has been useful for you. Let me see if I've forgotten any slides here. I think that's about it. And good luck with your Gerber Edge printing and with color-to-color registration. Thank you.